The moment I realized control wasn't leadership, let me start with something most leaders won't admit: control. Every leader on every business wants to have full control of everything that is happening in their business. So, what happened to me is that I was holding on to control because I wanted to be needed. That made me feel important. That made me feel that I was actually working for my business. And that was like the best thing for leadership. So, one thing that I realized after trying to have full control of everything is that I wasn't leading anyone. I was not in the position to become a good leader or to transfer my leadership to my team. What I realized after doing this control thing is that I was attached to the business, and I was attached to the business in not a very healthy way. So I basically masked that attachment as a responsibility that I have for my business. So if you are a business owner and you're having constant issues about control and how to let go control and how do you overcome that feeling, then this video is for you. So why control feels like safety? And this is something that you don't learn about control, or no one teaches you about control, but control feels like when you build something from scratch, you think it's your baby, okay? And you think it needs to be nurtured, and it is very difficult for you to let go. Another thing that control feels like safety is when you are starting on your professional path or your business career or whatever your earliest steps on are. There is someone that is going to question your credibility. I've had those experiences myself, and they actually like minimize your self-esteem, and it makes you feel insecure. And I think that's one of the main things we as business owner have to face at the beginning of our careers or at the beginning of our businesses or the early stages of our businesses. So if this happened to you, yeah, it happened to me too. There are going to be people that are going to question your credibility, and it's okay. It's part of your learning path. Another thing is that, oh, I have to earn trust the hard way. Mm, well, no, because you earn trust when you deliver what you offer because you set expectations. So, and, and sometimes people make mistakes, okay? And you think clients are not going to trust you because you make a mistake. And the thing is that I also made a lot of mistakes at the beginning, not only because my lack of knowledge at that time. There were so many things that I didn't know, and you don't know what you don't know. But the thing is that I was trying to be the person who knew everything, and when I made a mistake I felt awful. But what I've learned is that making mistakes is part of the journey, and clients will understand it if you are willing to accept your mistake. For instance, if you're an accountant and you make a mistake with a form and that it's a penalty for the client, and this has happened to me, what I always tell them, hey, you know what? It was our oopsie. I'm so sorry. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to solve the problem and we're going to pay the penalty. Okay. It sounds hard because it's going to be an economic impact for you and your firm, but it's the right thing to do. And that's how you earn trust, not by trying to be the know it all, but trying to be the person who accepts that, hey, I can make mistakes, but the good news is I can also solve them. So Another thing is that in my case, not being a CPA, it lived here in my head. And it was more in my head than in reality. For example, clients came to me, "Oh, are you a CPA?" No, I'm not, because I'm not yet. So when they found out I wasn't, guess what? I was the one scared. I was the I was the one nervous about it. They didn't care. They understood my value by listening of what I had to say, because I had a lot of experience in in the private sector. So when you have that type of experience, you have business acumen, and people listen. They listen to you. It's not only debits and credits. So to me, it took me a couple of years to understand that my value was not those three letters after my signature. My value was what I was able to deliver to my clients based on my experience and my learnings. And also, I hired, when you don't know, and this is what I did, I hired a CPA. And basically, he was like a mentor CPA for me. And actually hired three. Like I hired one, then I hired two, then I hired three. So these three CPAs were able to give me feedback and teach me, not like the regulation per se, because that's something you can find on Google, but the nuances of the industry and how do you solve this? Because there are so many things that can happen in a business that as a CPA you are able to resolve, or as an accountant, but I didn't know because I never worked in an accounting firm. So basically, I turned myself into a bridge. I was learning. I was also transferring those lessons to my clients. They knew that that I had a CPA mentor, so they felt like kind of a safety net there. So I basically try to manage the control by listening to CPAs and listening to everything around me about this industry. And I was actually building my first steps for my leadership role. And that was kind of a protection mode for me. But at the end of the day, that's how leaders are built. They actually learn from anyone else. If you don't learn, if you're just like this, then you're gonna be close-minded. And sometimes when you're a business owner, you need to be open-minded, because that's how it is. It's not black and white. There are some times there are gray areas that you need to get into. So being needed, it has a cost. So, and it's a very powerful cost and very expensive, because when you are needed, y- like everything, you become the bottleneck of your business, and people wait, and everything stays informal because they have to wait for you to make the decision. And your team never develops judgment about clients, judgment about anything. So your business just gets stuck. And sometimes you have to understand that in order for you to grow, you just have to transfer that business DNA to the people around you, not only your team, but also your customers, but also your vendors, because you are used to, or human beings, and this is what I've learned throughout these years, is that we always get attracted to people that share the same values that we do. And it, you can like you can review this in your life, like what are the type of people you get attracted to, and those are the people that are going to be open and willing to learn from you. And if you hire an employee, for example, and you want to transfer that employee the DNA, but that employee is not aligned with the company's values and everything that you have built, then that's not the right person for you, regardless of the experience that person has. And that has happened to me too. We hired a person who had a lot of experience, um, but unfortunately, her, um, I don't know, her attitude was not the right one for the team. And she was actually breaking the good vibe that the office had. So thank God she actually left by herself. But at the end of the day, it was going to be a decision that I was going to make. So that's part also of being needed under control, because you need to let go that and build the systems and put everything formally, because that's when your business starts scaling. So there's one thing that when you are a firm owner or a business owner, there is one thing that you do when you are in the process of building your business, and it's the identity shift. And that identity shift is basically like letting go that operational person, because you are the doer, like the fixer, and everything has to come through you. When you let go that operational avatar and you start questioning yourself about what am I really doing here in my business? What is actually my role? Instead of, if I'm not the fixer, then who am I? If I'm not the final answer, then what is my value, or where is my value? So that identity shift from being needed to be trusted, to be the leader, it starts when you stop as leader as yourself using that metric, to stop using the metric of usefulness, how useful am I for my business, and thinking about, I'm the leader, and what am I going to do for this strategy? What am I going to do with this situation? What if this happens? And you start seeing a business as a globe, okay? Because you have to think about everything as a leader. Okay, not only about your team, you need to think about your cash flow. You need to think about your marketing. How are you going to sell more? Okay, are your employees an expense or a cost? So those are the type of things that when you start like detaching yourself from that, you start seeing your business as a real business, not as a neighborhood store. So I'm going to give you an analogy about how I see myself in the business. For those who know me, I used to go to college in Colombia to study theater, screenwriting, and I love movies. Okay. And theater as well, and everything that is related to arts. So in this analogy that I'm going to give you, you're going to be like understanding how my brain works. So here it goes. You are the owner of a theater, okay? And this theater, you are the only person there. And at first, you are on stage, you are performing, you carry the show, and you do everything backstage, in front of the stage, everything, right? But then the theater grows and you start getting more audience to your theater. And then you realize that you are more valuable backstage than in front of the stage, because there are more let's say experienced actors that can perform better than you, or that you can teach them how to perform. Meanwhile, you are building something else backstage so they can perform better. And when you are in the backstage, you are the real leader. And the reason why is because everything happens backstage. Okay. And there's no theater performance if there's no lighting, if there's no structure. if there's no flow with the play, if there's no timing, okay? Everything needs to be done perfectly so actors can perform better. So the audience never sees you when you're backstage, okay? And that's okay, because that is where your real leadership starts. Is exactly the same in your business. Clients don't have to see you every day, so they know that you are there. And that's a fear that as business owners, we have to overcome. Sometimes we think that being in front of the customers and telling them, hey, we are here, is going to make them trust our businesses better. On the contrary, what I found throughout these years is that they see me as an alternative backup, but their main point of contact is always the accountant on file or the bookkeeper. So they know exactly these people are doing their job. If there is a problem that is really, really urgent, they copy me on the email and I just internally try to fix the situation. So I'm backstage. And I think invisibility for some people feels uncomfortable, but when you're building your leadership, it's actually what needs to be done. So remember my theater analogy. Being backstage, it's where real leaders are. So, of course, um, after 10 years, I had to unlearn a lot of things. Okay. Because you have so many prejudice and preconcepts and everything that has been thrown at you when you are little and you are a teenager and then you become an adult. So, one thing that Latino families do a lot is that you cannot answer to your mom. Okay. And your mom, if she's yelling at you, you have to stay silent. Otherwise, that chancla is going to be flying. So, one thing that I forgot while I was raised, and I love your mom, is that you don't have to jump in fast and answer immediately everything. Okay. And that's something that we need to understand as business leaders, that we need to pause and ask questions, ask better questions, and um, understand that competence doesn't come always with the fastest answer, but also making the right decisions. Going back to my example, as a Latina, you have to make decisions when you are fighting with your parents, because if you make the wrong decision, then your parents are going to. So, when they are like, telling you something that you didn't do right, so, well, most of Latinos are going to stay quiet. And whatever decision you make in that moment, in that insta second, is going to be detriment for you. If you roll your eyes, that's a huge bad decision. Okay. So it's the same here. Your body is expressing everything. And when you're making a decision, you need to understand that there are decisions that are done by gut, and gut, GUT. I'm sorry, I'm an ESL. And also, there are decisions that need framework. And those decisions that need framework, those are the ones you need to understand which one are those. So for instance, I'm going to give you two examples, one for the gut and one for the framework decision. So the gut decision. We had the first client, like the first franchise client, like 4 years ago. He came to us and we thought he was going to say no because it was a huge project to take on. But my gut told me that he was going to come back and he was going to say yes. And this happened January. So February, I decided to hire a person to be ready for that client. And my partner, he said, no, it's going to be a waste of money. We don't know if that person is going to be here, if those clients are going to be confirming the service. And I said, the worst thing that could happen is that we can use her for something else. And I made that decision by gut, to be honest. And it was going to be like a hit in our cash flow. So I did it. And she started like mid-February, I think. And by April 1st, he said, okay, I'm ready to go. So if I wouldn't have made that decision, then we wouldn't be ready for that, because that gave us like a month and a half to train her and to prepare her for everything, so she could understand everything that was happening, in public accounting, because she was not coming from public accounting. She was also coming from private sector. So here you go. That was my gut decision. Now, on the decision framework, and this is a decision that I would make if I would have to make this decision. This is a decision that I will make with a framework. If I want to acquire another accounting firm, for instance, you want to acquire an accounting firm, but you're still not ready for that growth. And if you're not ready, then that's going to be a problem. If you acquire another business, that will be chaotic. So before you jump into getting another business, then you will have to make decisions based on that goal, short term, long term, midterm, whatever. So in order for me to get to this, which is acquiring a business, I will need to create processes. That's one decision. Then I will have to, I don't know, save money. That's another, because you will have to make a down payment. I don't know. So those are the kind of decisions that will need structure for you to be able to achieve that goal. It's not like, oh, let me just put my fingers like this and that will be it. So to me, the unlearn part, it was really important, because it made me understand what were my decisions from God and what from gut, and what were my decisions that needed to be thought and structured. So what has improved after I have evolved? Uh, and I'm laughing because to me, I use that word a lot. Like, I'm evolving. So basically, that the control is not something that is going to disappear. That control monster is always going to be talking to you. And you just need to understand in what part of your business needs your control and which one doesn't. So for me, the one that needs my control is the cash flow, okay, and the finances, and that's a part of my business that I will not let go. And the reason why I'm not yet. And the reason why is because I have a structure and a methodology to save money, to put the money in different pockets, to prepare the business for year-end bonuses or to hire someone. So those are the kind of things that actually, like, I haven't been able to let go control of. But the good news, my team, they develop judgment. And that's huge. That's a win-win situation, because when they develop judgment, you don't have to be there like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They know exactly how to do, how to solve, how to talk to clients. Another thing is that the clients are trusting outcomes, and they're just not they are not just trusting me. Like, they trust the firm. It's now a firm. It's not Olga. And every decision that I have made, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna make this decision. I have to scale it. I have to scale my decision in order for me to make a decision. As I mentioned, I have two types of decisions: by gut or by framework. So to me, the definition of leadership, based on my experience throughout these past years, is that you need to design your strategies with clarity because you need to know where you're going. You need to set boundaries, mostly in your decisions. Because sometimes when you don't set boundaries, or most of the times when you don't set boundaries, you're going to have a problem. Okay. Let's say, for example, you have a kid and that kid wants to eat ice cream every night before bed. If you say yes every time, that's not going to be good for the kid and that's not going to be good for you. And as a leader, in your home, you set those boundaries. You said, no, that's not going to happen. Probably a Saturday or Sunday is ice cream night. I don't know, whatever. So those are the kind of boundaries that we need to make in our businesses as well, because saying yes every time is going to be worse, because when you say no, that's going to be like no motivation for those employees. So make sure that you start setting those boundaries since the beginning. And another thing that I've learned that leadership is that you have to create a business that it doesn't panic because you're not there. Okay? Panic only exists in our head. Everything becomes urgent, but everything can be solved. Everything has a solution, but not death. Okay. So, um, unless there is blood everywhere, then you start panicking. Okay. You panic when you see blood. Otherwise, no. Everything has a solution. And you need to have those decision frameworks to be able to make better decisions and solve your problems or your business problems easily. What I learned that leadership is not, you don't need to be indispensable. You don't have to hold everything together in your business. Okay. You're not glue. And you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Okay. Those are the three things that I've learned throughout these years as a leader. And I really hope that if you are doing any of these three, make sure that you replace them. If you feel like you are being indispensable and that's the way of your leadership, then you need to start designing clarity in your business. For instance, you can start creating processes. So being indispensable can be replaced by designing clarity in your business with processes and procedures. If you are the glue, like holding everything together, then you need to start setting decisions boundaries. If you don't do that, then you're going to be burned out really quickly. And if you think that being the smartest person in the room is is what defines leadership, then you need to understand that there are people around the world that are smarter than you. And it's okay, because I've read these memes or quotes on social media that said, oh, you need to always hire someone smarter than you. And this is something that allegedly the millionaires and billionaires and gazillionaires do. So if they do it, well, there should be something good about it. So let's start thinking more about our type of leadership and to start replacing what leadership is not to what leadership is, should be, so we can have the business we dreamt. And that business is for you to gain financial freedom, or for you to build a legacy, or for you to be able to retire early. I don't know what are the goals that you have, but being a better leader probably will take you closer to that goal. So, when I really became a leader, okay, when I let go my control. And when I let go my control, I stopped wanted to be needed, because I wanted to be free. I wanted to build the business. I didn't want to be needed every single second. That changed everything in my business life. Right now, I can tell you I'm just working in the business for 2 days. The other 3 days, and building the strategy, finding efficiencies, getting AI implementations, talking to mentors, attending conferences. So It's not about being 100% doing the work. That's your operational avatar. Just remove that suit and putting put your put the suit of the leader of the business and be the strategic CEO that you want to become based on the goals that you had when you built or when you started building that business. Thank you. And subscribe if you want to hear more about my experience as a business leader and as a CEO and founder of my accounting firm.